Welcome back, friends, and here it is, game number 1 about to begin, and by all means could be our most exciting one for the day. Reject versus Damwon Kia, our match of the day to kick it all off. How perfect is it for our day for play day number 5 of APAC North? Could be a big decider for many teams here, but there's a big gauntlet to go through for Reject at least. Welcome back to the Analyst Desk. This is Hap and Fabian. Hap, why don't we talk about Damwon Kia first? Because I think people know a thing or two about them.
It's like we prefaced them a little bit before. They are the team that brought or equaled, if not brought a more successful result than to APAC than they've ever had. One single round away from making it to a grand final back in Sweden. But ever since, a bit of a slump. They haven't been on that same level. And they had the opportunity to go to the Charlotte Major. Unfortunately, didn't qualify in those playoffs. So they will be very much pleased with the fact that the top 2 is just going to get a straight ticket to Berlin, and they don't have to play those playoffs because that's where they lost it last time.
Today they're actually going up against maybe the biggest chance to lose it, because if they drop points here and then they don't have a super successful game against Sandbox, it could be either one of those teams just going past them. So imagine if we see Damwon fall off today. I don't think so. If I be realistic, I think Damwon is going to beat Reject. Still has an opportunity, and we know how good Damwon are. Star player on every single position.
But there's still the opportunity. I mean, Damwon Kia goes up against KAG next play day. Might be able to win there, but then the final day is against Sandbox. It might be a fight for one of those top 2 spots.
The thing is, if they win today with 3 points and Cyclops loses points out today or just can only get 1 point, no, actually 0 points.
They have 0.
If they get 0 points and Damwon win, they are secured for Berlin. If they win today, that will come down to Cyclops to see whether or not Cyclops is going to be able to bring it to next week, where it will be decided in that case, or if they will be, confirming themselves today. It's either or.
Yeah, and it would just be then a fight for one of the top 2 positions at that point, but they would be locked into the top 2. It's just the seeding that will matter at the end of it, which is very important for a stacked Berlin Major. Don't worry about it. NA teams, they're coming in hot, but also big surprises in Brazil. Honestly, it's a conundrum at this point. But what about their opponents, Reject, Fabiwabi?
Well, I've been praising them in the pre-show, and I just keep praising them because they've really taken the step, as we said. It's just the amount of aggression and confidence that we see in that team is something that was completely unheard of in the last stage. They just didn't have basic setups. They didn't have any basic team play. But this stage, what we've seen from them, especially in the game against Fnatic, and sure, Fnatic have been struggling both the stages. It's just they really rocked their world and took them completely off the server. And if we can keep seeing that sort of Reject where they come in with that confidence, I think that there's an opportunity to basically push Damwon out of balance. But I don't think that they're a better team. Let's not get that far and say that they're a better team. But they can rock them out of balance, and if you can get a team out of balance, maybe on a map choice that they didn't expect, or bring a different playstyle to a map that they've practiced against each other on before, it could really go anyway. We have no idea at all.
Actually, let's take a look at our maps then and bring it up on the screen for everybody at home. And I will be asking you, Hap, about it. Here it is. Will it be the one that they're looking for? We're going to go to Chalet, and Clubhouse will be banned out by Damwon Kia. They had the final say. They'll be starting on defense as Reject have picked up attack for Chalet. Hap, your thoughts?
It's not a map they've played before this stage itself, or at least in the APAC North stage, but we have seen bits and pieces from Damwon Kia in the past. The fact that they start defense is going to be their biggest challenge. If they manage to get 3, well, even 4 rounds, I think the game is going to be done. So they definitely, have the opportunity to make the difference early on. At the same time, it puts the pressure onto Reject. They start off on the attack. It is quite a bit of a favorite side. They need to instantly show that they're here to play. They need to show that they can get those 4 rounds on the board.
Yeah, it's a very attacker-favored map, and obviously starting attack is then going to be the positive. So for Reject to be able to start attack on the map, and then kind of what I want to see from them is just that they pick apart Damwon's players one by one, because that's kind of how Chalet plays out in attack. So if you can pick up Damwon's defenders one by one, there's a chance for Reject to pick up rounds and then put the pressure back onto Damwon Kia when they change sides, so that Damwon knows that they need to win 4 attacks or maybe 5 attacks to even get a draw.
Well, friends, I think it's time for us to head into game. Damwon Kia, can they take it all here, all 3 points, or will Reject fight back? There's a lot of expectations on this, and we go to Chalet. Let's toss it to our casters. It's Fluke and Fresh. Enjoy.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Hi, it's us in the UK still. Hi, Fresh.
We're still remote. We're still from home, unfortunately, but hopefully we will be back next week.
It's a little bit warm. A little bit warm in a closed window room.
Yeah, no air conditioning either, so we're suffering a little bit, but do you know who's not suffering? The viewers, because there's an absolute banging game coming up. I've got it in there before anybody else did.
I mean, Tim is ruining somewhere. Tim...
Yeah.
He sat there on a couch, he just punched the arm of the sofa. That was my line.
He's got a slightly different accent, but we're not sure why, but oh well.
Yeah, he's from like the Wirral now. Tim. This is the alternate Tim that we have. No, it's good. It's going to be good. And all that depends on, well, there's Window with all the energy we wanted of him. It all depends on Reject at this point. And this is almost, I'm just going to keep talking about him because I love talking about him. It is his two darlings. It's his sort of two favorite teams, I think, about to hit heads currently.
Yeah, this is kind of like out with the old, in with the new, right? Damwon were his previous darlings and Reject are his new darlings. So going up head to head, I don't even know which way you predicted, to be fair, but like, I think it's very similar story arc of a team that came in, you know, in terms of Reject, in terms of their kind of storyline. They came in, they got promoted, they had a bit of a difficult first stage, but then going into stage 2, they've looked even better. And I think going into stage 3, you got to start talking about them as one of the top teams.
Their rise has been crazy. It's been great. It's been everything that I think we sort of missed a little bit about APAC. Because they used to be a region where there was always a surprise team. There was often a surprise team, and they made surprise runs on the biggest stage. It was exciting, always exciting. And then it's not that they got a little bit sort of, you know, complacent. It's not that they got a little bit flat, but we didn't quite have those same runs, those same Cinderella stories, those same things that really grabbed us until Damwon Kia started to do that process. And they seemed a little bit more in control. But here, this sort of blinding pace that Reject have swung themselves into, it's kind of that thing that goes, okay, this is the APAC I remember and love.
And that's true, actually. They're a lovable team to watch because of the brand of Siege that they play. It's very exciting, and that's why you've seen... I don't think I've ever seen Damwon Kia do a glass ban, but they're clearly very scared of how Reject can play with that particular operator and smokes and scents and absolutely everything in terms of this map. However, we'll be going into Dining Kitchen as the first bomb site for Damwon Kia. They're going to look to potentially play above the site, and they're also bringing the mirror, which isn't something that's necessarily always seen on Shelly either.
I mean, it's also, you find yourself starting here on this site as well. It's not the most common lead-in for a lot of teams. They'll usually obviously either take the top floor on the bedroom side, or sometimes they'll go underneath, depending if they know their opponents pretty well. Assuming a miss throw. I mean, you assume that that's just an accidental swing round. They were looking for the peak and seeing if they can get it, but either way, that's not a smoke that you would otherwise play. Here's the pressures coming quite quick and aggressive onto Rin, and there it is. Take is able to take the first body out. Coated follows almost instantly with Window. Getting the pop in, maybe the smoke was the bait play, pulled him to the full sense of security, and then struck so fast.
Yeah, that's just an absolute freebie from Window there. The main push appears to be coming out from library side across, which is pretty default, as you would see. And it's weird talking about Reject doing default pushes, but it looks like they're going to go library side across. They've managed to find that entry engagement, and then Window, just with a little bit of a cheeky play through the drone hole, has managed to find one Coated as well. And, you know, for a team that we said they've got to come in and they've got to start strong, Reject certainly are doing that.
Boogeyman, he's just stacked up on the top of blue. There's pings and a reveal, and a grenade might be the pop. He just slips away and catches the drone on the way out the door, but it's Salty that actually finds him on the rotation round underneath. Reject are everywhere, and now putting pressure onto the site itself. They only have a bit of vertical control. They just see the leg and the sliver of Salty. You can't get the grenade catch onto the player themselves. Katsang has the vertical control, and you can see that Yas has rotated his way down to have the door of the west main. Katsang still doing everything just to keep them at bay for now, but a minute 20 means that, well, they might be able to try and focus their attack onto one of these two mirror windows apiece. The smokes start to drop and drone their way through. Tadaneki's just going to tuck himself in. Yas has to go for a pretty aggressive rotate here, sprays through And he doesn't quite get the full catch. They're going to pull off the plant in the midst of the smoke. The spray through. Katsang gets one. Yas is trying to bite back and find a second here inside the site itself, but they've pulled themselves back. Still with the vertical. Katsang's going to get a little bit more aggressive over the top of Fireplace, but Salty has it locked in. Yas. All that's left, 4 players. They have full control over the 2 stories. And Reject with a bit of a blinder. I think they've probably got this first round in the bag.
Yeah, pretty much. Obviously, Yas, he's going to try and find it. And if anybody can, it would be Yas, but he's really running out of time. He simply does not have time to get back to the diffuser now. He's playing completely for one kills, and Take will punish him on that. And I love that from Reject. I absolutely love it. Clear with the Roamers. It's not something that we necessarily associate with the way Reject play as a team. We talk about them doing different stuff, but Reject there have had a really solid round in terms of finding the Roamers, the one library side, the one that was on the top blue stairs, and cutting their rotates back to site and just punishing them when they were solo. And they just kept compounding and compounding until eventually they were in a 5v2 and could just throw numbers at that problem. Plant down, rounds won, jobs are good.
Jobs are cabbage. Have I ever enlightened you into this phrase? I know I got tips saying it.
No, I've never heard it before. I was just like,
it's a northern phrase that I picked up in my time in Leeds. But I don't know if I think it started as a joke phrase.
Jobs are cabbage.
Jobs are cabbage. It just means it's good. It's done.
There's going to be a lot of international people very confused because jobs are good and it's a pretty English term.
Yeah, jobs are cabbage.
Yeah.
It was a very well put together, very tasty cabbage. From Reject there, they had, as you said, great control. The fact that they were able to get those 2 very early fights on Library, on Trophy, on the opposite sides of the map itself, and then utilize that to then close down the expectations of Damwon Kia, who tried to pull themselves back in. Okay, this map is one that does play itself very well for attackers, but also it's very rare to see Damwon Kia sort of brushed aside with the panache and pace that Reject had. That seems like they want to stack up here again, once again. Very quick, very sharp towards the approach here onto Library. The upside down rappel just to see if they can get the late catch on the body. But within the opening 20 seconds, they have themselves putting a huge amount of pressure onto Coated, who just slipped by into the little pocket nook.
And this is why Rejects have teams excited, have people excited in terms of viewership, because they've got levels that, again, they can go and do a default and then they're straight into Ying and Lion and fast pushing, direct poking onto site. And there's different levels, obviously different ways of attacking. Very unpredictable. It's very hard to know what they're going to do.
Well, the grenade does a little bit of scratch damage. He's going to get himself out of that. Coat is able to find a quick and speedy escape. Take has the drone on the intel, but that's a player down on the back of the side. It's Rin that actually gets dropped and drops them way back through the open hatch there into sight. The E1D doesn't quite get the full catch. The Candelas are attempting their way around the back, but it's Yas that finds the first. Take goes down. Salty's trying to get a bit of revenge and finds it. There's the open hatch, and there's another one. Katsang caught out just on the split, smashes their way towards the top of blue, and Woogieman isn't going to try and stick in for as long as he might have otherwise wanted to before. Rin now tucked into box. Candy could get a cheeky swing in, but actually isn't going to take the moment. They're so low, it'll just take a couple of bullets through the wood, and one if it's a little bit more precise.
And once again, we're talking about a Rejects that's playing together so well. Got two, essentially refragged Take out, and then got 2 for the price of 1 there on the side of Salty, who's having an exceptional season, by the way. Droning's going to occur in, going to see 1 person stock, and it's just about isolating that player, and then Candy can start looking to send in these Candelas and start looking for a plant.
Tadaneki finds one, Woogieman finds revenge. A quick back and forth as an E1D pops off. It doesn't quite get the full control, but you're looking at 50 seconds, loads of time. Salty suffers, I believe, in a Rooney gate. He just tried to slam his way through there, and they're trying to find this last final push. The Candela rolls its way down onto Pantry, gets a bit of a blind onto Coated, and there's the bit of the damage as they drive themselves through. Salty 5-0. Woogieman, all that's left. The door is castled off, so he's going to go for the retake over the top, but it's a post-plant. Once again, they have themselves in a multiple body advantage. The spray is scrappy. It doesn't quite get the full connection on either of them, but it's enough to make the next fight even more deadly. It's a rotate that's entirely caught out. Salty finally knocked off the board and sent into the ethereal coil, but it's Woogieman. Almost caught out by the rotation. The reveal of the player onto Pantry. They're going to pull themselves back. A late Grismot and a catch onto a player. They know where the supply line is. They know where the player is. They're buying as much time as possible, and they buy the round. Reject 2-0.
Such impressive stuff from Reject. You just gotta love it. You love to see it. Genuinely, the way that they Window's going absolutely mental, and he is just the hype man for this team. But the thing that I love about Reject, I said it, is the way that they can do a default attack, win it. The way they can go for a direct attack and win it. And what's the common theme that we've seen across the 2 rounds? It's team play, it's togetherness, it's setting up engagements. The Incandela comes in as Salty's just heaving himself straight into stock to go and get that kill onto the castle there, and it really is Reject just setting up advantageous engagements after advantageous engagements, and we're seeing it. They're taking the fight to Damwon Kia 2 rounds in a row, and they've looked absolutely great for it so far.
It's really well put together, and I think that's the main play here. They haven't really stopped. They haven't let up. Damwon Kia are sometimes a team that caution is paid against them, and it doesn't buy you anything other than them time to set up. And here, Reject, as I said, it was within the opening 20 seconds. They were knocking some pressure onto the door itself, and then from then on, they just keep themselves moving. They're either throwing stuff at you or charging at you with bullets. And I think Damwon Kia, they're still sort of waking up into that level that Reject are bringing. It's also tight as well. You look at the way they're able to pick up the rotation down blue. You look at the way they're able to find the swings around on the other side of the sites. It's just very, very well good. Very well good. It's early for me. I'm still waking up.
It is very early for us. It's probably very early for a lot of our viewers watching, but
yeah,
you know, it's wake up. I used to do this when I was just in a normal job, a normal 9 to 5. I would wake up and watch some APAC in the morning just before work. So very fun.
But you didn't have to commentate it.
I didn't have to commentate it. That's true. I just had to watch, and I just had to exist and have a coffee.
Yeah, which is much more pleasant. I used to have it on whilst I was opening the store. In a morning, I would have the mages.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was my morning entertainment.
Nice. Nice.
Now I get to do this.
I know, you just get to talk about it.
I know.
You don't have to open up any stores.
Very lucky so far is also an approach of Damwon Kia that hasn't suffered, which, to be honest, at this point, they'd usually at least found themselves on the wrong end of an engagement. Here, on a different site, on this top floor, the one that's often cited as the first lead-in for many teams, Reject are sort of giving it that pace. They have themselves with the steady approach all the way underneath in the garage. Salty's going to try a 2-story grenade to get rid of that shield. Does a bit of the damage to the Tachanka. Again, very well combined use of utility and intel there. They're making full factor of the fact that it's 2 stories of soft, and they're going to put that pressure immediately onto these stairs.
They just seem to be absolutely all over it. I don't know why Window's spending so much time for a default cam. He's put about 2 mags into it, but it's a normal enough Solarium side take coming out. You've got Window, you've got Trophy, you've got complete pressure on the north side, and you've got the first kill for Reject. Now it's just about playing the pinch between the bathroom window and the double window, and then looking to go in for a plant, because you've completely cut off all of DK. Ooh.
Well, you've also cut off their 2 big fraggers, although it's a team of it, Yas and Rin. Neither of them really able to get into this game as of this moment in time, and to be honest, you can't say that of many of the players. Woogieman is at least able to find one, gets entirely shut down in the response. Tadaniki steps up, and there's Katsang to make sure that it's a chain that ends in their favor. But they are still 1 body down, and there's only 30 seconds. That's the big draw right now. That's what Damwon Kia have to work with. Reject, they're trying to get themselves set up and structured. They have a rough idea on where the player is. The kit is cold, and they've got about 20 seconds to try and pull together this push. Salty's going to find his way towards the double window, cross off a bit of an angle, the slow creep towards and the blind onto the bathroom. Katsang pulls himself back, going to watch it with a little bit more range and cover. Coated is massively damaged. He can't get too aggressive on the swing, so instead they're going to get really aggressive on the fight. Reject, they play the man, not the objective, but they also play it so well.
And it's crazy how they can switch. They clearly thought that they didn't have the win condition once they'd lost a couple of bodies to force themselves a plant by playing on the windows. We saw that the Jaeger had a little bit of success there, playing inside a master bedroom, getting into bathroom, and they switched to their win condition being kills, as you say, not the objective. And it looked a little bit ropey in the end there. DK obviously have a lot of quality, could nearly pull it back, but Reject just about had enough, and they definitely had enough numbers advantage to do so, to force their lives into that round win. And one thing that I will say for Reject is there's not a lot of deaths on the side of Reject so far. I think, what, 3? 4, 5, 6? Am I reading that correctly? 6 deaths, and I think I've counted out 5 of them being directly traded. DK are really struggling to find any foothold whatsoever, because anytime they get a kill, they have been completely traded back out so fast, and it makes it so difficult to play against as a defender.
I think that's also the thing about Chalet as well. What Chalet can offer itself for attackers, and one of the reasons that it's sort of started to get a very good rep for attackers, is how quickly you can be on the other side of anyone's route out. If you're putting pressure onto the top floor, if you're putting pressure onto, you know, the sort of Solarium side or on Trophy or on Library, there's usually a window or two that can watch pretty much every single one of your ways out. And that's what Reject are also playing very, very well. They're making sure that they're in those sort of open mitt catch positions to, as soon as a Damwon Kia player might slip his way through or away, they're there to take care of them.
The map, the site will be a full rotation. We're going back to Dining Kitchen once again, from Damwon Kia's point of view. However, this time differently, they're not going to lose a life to the drone hole, and they're not going to get way too aggressive towards the Library side. Obviously, Reject came in from the Library side last time and found a couple of kills for free, particularly onto Woogie, and I think it was Yas, if I remember rightly. They've relocated the position, so they've given up the ground, but they've saved their lives within a minute. So they're not in a 3v5, but they have conceded a lot more ground to Reject.
Slightly different approach here from Reject. They're getting a little bit of that clarity of intel underneath. I think whether they know where Yas is or not, they're hoping that they can try and find him. Find that loose thread, pull it and knock it out. A lot of drones, a lot of dedication to where last time we saw this approach come pretty much entirely across the top. The grenades. Window's going to bounce it round towards the top of the stair set, but nobody is currently home in Solarium, so instead they're forced a little bit further back. Yes. Holding down. Waiting as Reject is still setting themselves up with those angles, those covers, the pop of the mirror window underneath, and the quick retreat. Dark8 doesn't want to give them a fight where there isn't somebody to get revenge, and that's that gameplay we've talked about Reject doing so well before.
Yeah, and they're going for a complete split push. As you see, you got in underneath, open the mirror windows, and now the main push is going to come in from the Library side with the Thermite. We'll open up the office wall initially onto Katsang, and then we'll drop down to lobby to go and open the site walls. Katsang needs to get himself out of office, which is what he does. He gets himself behind a keeper barrier, playing safe up there. Just needs to hold the attackers out of the vertical, and he should be okay.
Yas Inbox is able to find a punishment kill down here onto the corridor. Now he's a bit stuck, and Candy isn't entirely sure actually whether he was able to get out or not before, but Yas is still tucked in. And the longer that goes unchecked, the more dangerous that can be, because he can always swing his way around. He's tucked, hoping that they can pull off this, the destruction on towards the site wall itself. Yas could be massive here. If they've not really got an idea of where he's gone, they're not watching it. Tadaniki's going to smoke off the close corner there, and they're seeing if they can try and put the pressure onto the site. They got the breach open. They're trying to open the players behind at the plant on the chassis, but it's Rin and Candy. But Yas will take a moment to find his way round. It's the vertical that starts to suffer. It's locked in. Saves the life of Yas there with the swing round of post plant. Tadaniki, all that is left standing, going for a bit of a ring around the rose. He's inside the site. Rin final is off. The player that was downed. It's a swing round. Damwon Kia find their first.
More or less, Yas has won the round there for his team. He's managed to find an opening kill, like you say, from the box and get into a bit of an awkward position where the attackers can't commit to drone him. They didn't commit to drone him. He stayed nice and safe and then come around late for a massive flank as the people in sight have fronted up completely the attack. The defense basically can then just swarm onto the attackers. That's exactly what happened. And that was a good round, I think, based off a bit of an individual play from Yas, but then compounded by the rest of Damwon Kia. They get their first round back. They finally get a foothold in this match.
It was still moments like there where if obviously Rin hadn't been able to pick off the player that swung onto Yas, they would have got that kill. They would have secured the backside of their hold. It was still an ability to try and get the objective down. I guess we talked about it at the end of round 3 where we said, well, they went for the kills. They didn't feel confident going for the objective. Here was kind of the opposite, and they lost a lot trying to pull off the objective. The loose play of Yas finally finds success after many rounds of not quite having a connection. He's started. How far he can go, I don't know. And then you look on the left-hand side and the repicks and you go, oh.
Yeah, you do. That is exactly. And this is what Reject have, right? Is they can go for a conventional play. And I keep saying this. They can go for a conventional play or they can go for something completely out there and wacky. It's probably repicked based on the fact that they've seen the site. Because the last time we saw them go onto Bar Gaming, they obviously played direct onto the library side, above site, and then looked to go straight into site. Didn't look to take, realistically, much more map control than library and site itself. And obviously Ying Lion enables that. I'm just curious to see how Take uses the Amaru.
Well,
I think potentially in this window. Rogue did it, right? This is what Crine did on Rogue.
It is what Crine did. Crine pulled off an Amaru ace from this very window.
I think it's the same thing.
Well, how aware are Damwon and Kia? That's the play. Yas is obviously up on the rafters. He'll get the audio call very quickly. They're still setting themselves up. Take is going to not go under that E1D. Wait for more Reject to get themselves locked in. The Candelas are going to roll their way through, make as much noise as possible. There's the swing, there's the push, and here we go. Take inside the site, looks for the first, swings round, finds Katsang on the other side on the supply line, is able to try and keep that LMG going and gets coated too. It's a 3 versus 3 though, but Salty with the kit inside the site is going to see if he can stick it. Take is watching down the stairs, but Yas comes around the opposite side, drops down the hatch, and although the plant gets confirmed, they get the pickup pretty much instantly afterwards. Rin is going to go for the retake above. They know that Candy has to be there. They're holding on to the best of their ability. They try to go as fast as possible. There's the swing round. There's the first. The second is about to find themselves on the door itself, and they don't quite get it. It is Woogie Man that gets the play back in. Rin with the Canada fuse. They went for something quick, but the 2 kills above meant that they were able to keep it in their favor. Damwon Kia find their second.
Yeah, DK dealt with that just about pretty well. And what I want to say for Reject is this is the second time that I've seen a rush that they've done that almost looks like they've not imitated, but they've done the same rush as what an EU team did. If you remember them last week or a couple of weeks ago on Villa, they did the rush, similar rush to what G2 did in terms of straight into study, into Aviator Games, and pushed in and got the round, and it was amazing. It was perfect. Rogue did that exact push in EUL and it worked out perfectly. Reject have just done it there. It's, you know, a rush at times is often a 50-50 gamble that you just bank in that the defenders aren't quick enough to rotate back. DK were quick enough to rotate back and get numbers back on site. It absolutely, the plant went down and it could have worked. And what I do like, as I say it again, I love the kind of adaptability and the kind of dynamicness of Reject. Sometimes they can play normal, sometimes they can play rush, sometimes they can completely mix it up. It worked. The rush initially worked, the plant goes down, but DK did really well to get numbers back up against it.
It's one of the things about a rush is sometimes it's not just about how much pressure you can put on your opponents in terms of gun skill, but communication. As soon as that becomes a little bit muddy, as soon as your opponents aren't quite able to get the words and the verbiage out that they're here, they're pushing, and you lose that clarity, that is the moment that entirely the round swings. That is that one thing where it's suddenly, as soon as that pipeline of intel is muddy, you're not getting a clean feed through. You're not getting a true read on what your opponent's doing, and they can entirely capitalize upon that. Quick pressure underneath Katsang onto the trophy stairs. He's just going to see if he can hold on for as long as possible. It becomes a situation with these ADS. He's going to juggle them and try and pick them up and put them back down in the time it takes anything to roll around into his favor. Just going to pop these gates with the X-Kairos to a pair, and well, yeah, with the Azami as well. They're dedicating everything to this hold.
I love that use of this army though. They know, and they might have had an idea that there was Capitao, because Capitao had been shot and had shot bullets with that LMG. It's a very distinct LMG and they're not playing a gridlock, that's for sure. So these army, get these army keep barrier on the window, enable the rotation of Katsang, because you know that he was not going to live due to the presence of the Capitao, who of course completely negates any ADSs. No 1i on the board. So I love that play from DK just to get their player out of that position. They concede the position, but they keep the player's life.
Oh, the grenade rolls just a bit short there of Yas, who's going to rebuild himself a new barricade on the chassis of the bomb. If they hand it over the stairs, they're still not handing over the room itself. They're not allowing anybody to get their way in. And you can see Reject, they've stacked themselves up with a bit of a spread. One's on the offer side balcony, one is on the piano window itself. They're going for a bit of a pinch pressure. Salty wants to swing, wants to try and pre-fire some bullets. Doesn't get the catch on the player, so pulls back, expecting Yas to try and re-find his face. But instead, now just holds the angle as Take tries to get some work done, but sprayed through against Rin, dropped off, but survived. It's Tadaniki that goes down onto the balcony, onto the windows even.
I don't think he meant to obviously drop off because he's injured himself there. Probably just ran out of space trying to cover off. You know, there's 2 or 3 windows you can be peeked from on that balcony. It's a really hard one to play. And there's lives just falling everywhere. And this time for Reject, they're not going to have lives to throw at the problem.
Well, Salty just gets the final connection there with Coated. At least takes one off the board, but the body advantage is still in the favor. And even further, yes. He said he was making sure they didn't enter the room, and now he's gone for the entire retake of it. Salty's still going to try and find his way, his route into the site itself, with Rin meaning that they cannot get anything on those piano windows. Woogieman is watching the stair set. They have the call on where the kid is, so Window tried to find his way up underneath, but it's a little bit noisy on the approach round. They have an angle. They have a little bit of pre-fire, but they only have 10 seconds, and that's that blow now. The flash is over the top, the swing round, the pre-fire catches it. It's Yas on there. Salty on the double window is all that's left. He would die if he swung into this window, so instead he's just going to see if he can get one out the way.
At the start of this round, I was thinking to myself, and I didn't say it, but I was thinking whoever wins this round could potentially have the opportunity, or will have the opportunity to go and win the game, but probably will win the game, because more or less, Reject have dominated that attack half, but have only come away with a 3-3, which they will not be happy with. You know, they were in position, particularly in rounds 4 and 5, not so much in round 6, but they realistically, if you look in the balance of the performance of the round, could have had a 5-1 split, and therefore would be defending out a 5-1 split. As it is, they're defending out a 3-3 split, which you've got to say, from a defensive point of view, Damwon Kia have done absolutely excellently there to get to a 3-3 split. Really good resilience, really well regrouped in the full site rotation in the second half of the first half. And I think that, you know, from the balance of it, Damwon Kia can now go out and be the kind of quote-unquote favourites to win this match.
I think one of the big things is they started to have a little bit more energy in terms of putting the pressure back onto Reject. You look at, he's always a good stat line for this, is Yas. Those first 3 rounds didn't find a single kill, and then found 7 in the second set. As he said, in the first 3 rounds, actually, the whole team only found 5 kills. And then suddenly you have Woogieman stepping up, you have Yas stepping up. All of them are capable of having those pop-off moments, those games where they really start to deliver themselves a little bit more into their opponents. And at first Reject was striking hard, and then suddenly they remember they can strike back. But now is their chance to try and dictate the pace, the momentum, see if they can capitalize on a bit of that fear. Quick play, the gun 6 over the top, just drops the castle and gives them a little bit more advantage.
Yeah, it just means it's really awkward for defenders to now rotate. Obviously, you put that castle barricade to allow you to rotate between piano and bathroom. Once that's gone, you've always got to be cautious as defenders of the double window. And I've got to say, potential mishap from Reject there. They are playing a Wamai. They could have put a Wamai Magnet to protect that, because it's usually one of the easiest and first things that the attackers do end up going for. I thought Rin had actually missed the Flores Rotero there, but does in the end get it. And that's 2 castles already dealt with. Not a lot of map control, and I love this from any attackers that play Alibi. Stick the Alibi Prism outside, get it right in the face of your opponents, across the middle of the screen in a really awkward place. So Salty just trying to be a little bit cheeky there, but it can be quite disruptive.
Oh, it frustrates you. Everybody knows it's one of those things, and you're trying to do everything. Siege's game of many different facets, and one of them is just being a nuisance.
Yeah.
Here's the pressure now onto another one of the castles. It's poured out. And Tadaneki's going to see if he can hold on just on the swing door between the bathroom and piano, caught on the drone, and pulls himself a little bit further back. Rin on one window, Coated on the piano, on the swing, and now onto the piano balcony. Can they try and find and isolate a single Reject player? Or are they still just shepherding them?
DK have spent a lot of time to get top floor control. They've just about got it by the looks of it, as 2 kills will come in. I was about to say they need to get them kills if they don't get top floor control fast. They've managed to very quickly establish top floor control and a couple of kills, so they were being patient, and they were rewarded for their patience.
Steady droning now, steady bits and bouts, as you said, of top floor control. They're looking to try and find the pieces of the final players, and there's at least Salty causing some problems. Up above, a hopping round on the window. They're now internal, and they now have a lot of that structure they can work with. They don't have to go for these dangerous debonair swings against the windows rather than the players inside. But 40 seconds. They're sort of waiting. Reject. They're hoping to get a catch on the players. They're playing slightly different positions. The flash means take the escape before it becomes something that entirely gets you caught out. Hold onto the angle and hope you can get the swing round. But it's Yas that finds window, finds one more for the trouble. Just leaves Salty and Take as they just start to drop and bring the pressure towards the site itself. Another one falls on the other side of Yas. Take, all that's left as the plant is being put down. They have 10 seconds, but they don't need it. Damwon take a flawless on their opening attack.
And that's the slice and dice strategic approach of Damwon. Sure, it takes a little bit more time. Sure, it's less flashy than what you'll see coming out of Reject. But they get their kills and they get it with such... When you talk about the numbers game of Siege and how you can quite literally make those value-based plays, that's what Damwon do. They play the numbers, they get the kills. It took them 2 minutes, near enough. More than 2 minutes, I think, to actually get their first kill. But then from there, they really took the advantage that they had. They had the top floor. They worked the vertical. They got the kill onto window. They then know that they've got sight. They've got above sight. So where are the rest of the players from the side of Reject? They're going to be horizontally across towards the dining hall, or they're going to be down West Main Stairs. Cleaned both of them up, and it's really just simple. They make it look so simple. Whenever I watch Damwon attack, they make it look so simple.
I think that's the kind of problem right now, is when they're driving the pace, it's tougher for teams to stop them. If you looked at those opening sort of rounds where it was Reject driving the force, they were entirely in control. And as you said, it could have been a 5-1, it could have been a 4-2. It could have been a little bit more from Reject if 1 or 2 moments had gone, but they were in the control of the pace. They were choosing when that they could try and do their close down and offer that bit of surprise. Here, when it's Damwon, it's like Jaws. It's that steady creep and pulse of a team that approaches at their own pace. And sometimes it's sharp, sometimes it's a bit slower, but it's always coming.
Yeah, and it looks like we're potentially looking for something fast through the snowmobile garage here. There's 2 or 3 stacked up right outside of it. Obviously, Katsang is on the thermite, and you're going to see the flurry of utility coming in. Thatcher grenade, probably flashes, and a nade at the same time as this bandit trick. Tadaniki's got to be very careful. There's the flash, and he does get the bandit trick, and the nade doesn't come out, so a bit of mistiming there from the side of DK. He's already got immense value. Needs to be careful not to lose his life, as one nade does get caught out by the Wamai magnet as well. You would expect a second to come through. The bandit trick is going off once again. The thermite will place on the left side of the wall though, and in the end it looks like DK are potentially just going to pull off completely. That is a massive little win there for Reject. They've got rid of 2 flashes and 2 nades off the side of Woogie and 1 hard breach charge, and completely disrupted a whole minute of DK's time in terms of them trying to get a wall off on the breach.
I mean, I think that's it. It's not just the fact that the bandit had more that he could do. Woogie Man had less. He lost his second grenade. So that little bit of miscommunication has meant he's got to try and build his way back in, and that's a hell of a shot to do as the first take. They've realized they've pulled off, so they can just sort of leave that and lock it. And there is obviously always that pressure of them going for the west main side instead. It's a little bit more width, and when you have less to work with, that's what you sort of need. Woogie Man, the slow creep over the top, has Take gun unknown. That could be that moment that comes in later to haunt them if they have misplaced and misplayed a player here from the side of Reject. Rin finds Take. Apparently not. They knew exactly where he was, and they were ready to catch him as soon as he went for the swing. The pressure from underneath. The Wamai almost gets entirely locked out by Woogie, who dropped with the Nook ability. Candy caught out on a drone, just shoots it out and keeps themselves alive and guessing. 50 seconds, but with that hatch control, DK are in a good position to start pressuring the site.
They're in a good position, but they're really short of time. That as we saw, they wasted a minute trying to breach, and they've had to go for a complete plan B approach. This is their second attack that they wanted to try. They wanted to go direct to the snowmobile, didn't achieve it, wasted a load of time, and even though they've got man advantage, there is only 30-40 seconds left. Candy can have a massive impact if he retakes the hatch very shortly.
He's going for it, and he's gone for it. Finds the first. The hatch cover is his. They're going for the swing and the pressure. Tadaniki goes down inside the site. Rin doesn't quite get it. Candy should be dead, but survives and thrives. And with 15 seconds, as long as he's in that hatch, they know they need to try and take control of it. Yes, he's looking for the fight itself. The drone on the player behind the pillar. They might go for the 2 versus 1 push here, but he's moved off into a new position. Doesn't get the connection, though. Katsang is going to go for it, but look at Candy. He's rotated round. He doesn't quite get the full cover. Finds it. The triple, but it's yes.
Just the numbers advantage there for DK, and it looked very shaky, especially when hatch control was underneath. I think the Wamai had played just 3 or 4 seconds more of their life, stayed a little bit safer. They could have just about held off the attack, but obviously that's that pressure of the numbers forcing the defenders to push out and try and get those kills back, try and revel in the chaos. But DK too good for that, way too disciplined, even if it did nearly fall apart twice in that entire round. However, they get the round win. That's 5 in a row, and therefore Reject will be forced into using their tactical timeout. I'm not surprised to see it, because Reject, you know, they were in full control. They've let it slide, and now, unfortunately, it feels like DK, it feels like they're in the driving seat and in full control.
Oh, it was almost a moment there on the sides of Reject. You can see the energy is one where they're trying to just focus some of that control back in against Damwon Kia that has started to roll 5 rounds, all of them in a row across the 2 halves so far. And well, it shows that even when put against some of the toughest adversaries, there is still those moments where they just start to fight their way back in. The control of the hatch became such a big aspect that almost entirely unraveled the plan. But the decision to go for that last little drone onto the player, onto the pillar inside the site, and then pull themselves on the 2 versus 1 into wine, take the fight that they knew they could, rather than the one that they'd already lost.
Now, if Damwon Kia win in regulation, because it's that time of the stage again where we start talking about majors and percentage chances. If they win in regulation, it moves them to a 94% chance of being in Berlin. They will more or less be in Berlin with a regulation win. Their biggest contenders, i.e. the biggest contenders to the current top 2, which is Damwon Kia and Sandbox, is Reject in themselves. However, their volatility means that if they win in regulation, they get a 60% chance of going, so more than, you know, better than a 50-50. If they lose in regulation, that drops all the way down to a 9% chance. So more or less we can, you know, obviously statistically we can't, but more or less we could say goodbye to Reject, go into Berlin. Now, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, as much as obviously for them, they'd love to go to Berlin, love to go to the majors, etc. However, the fact that we're even talking about Reject going to a major shows their progression as a team, especially from stage 1. So, you know, I think for them, another stage, like I say, they'll be exciting. We'll be talking about them in the context of majors next stage. Absolutely.
It's sort of that sad moment here for Reject, because we know what they're capable of. And you kind of want to see more of those first 3 rounds, whether you have a favorite in this game or not. It's always good to see the young upstarts on the swing put some damage in, do some of the work and the business that needs to be done to try and break across and put the pressure to the old dogs, the OGs, the original ones that are the bar. And as we just get ourselves cleared on what is quite going on, we'll hopefully be back in the game sooner rather than later. The tech pause.
Yeah, so I thought this was a tactical timeout from Reject. This was a technical timeout for a tech issue that was ongoing. They've taken that pause, and then now we are back into the game, as you can see, which is why it was a little bit longer. We were focusing on both teams on the cameras rather than just the one that was taking the timeout. I don't think any timeout has been taken yet, so just to clarify that one back up. But for Reject, even still, even though their coach couldn't speak, it was a bit of a circuit breaker for them, a bit of a killer of the momentum of DK. So they managed to regather their thoughts, speak together, you know, at least as a team, as 5 players, because they will have been speaking about that type of stuff, and then go again. And they're going to go again on the bar gaming side. Now, I don't recall seeing this. I don't think we did see it so far. We've seen Dining Kitchen, Snowmobile, and did we see Master? Can't remember. We've had 3 attack rounds. 2 attack rounds.
2 attack rounds.
I can't count.
It.
Yes, I am
counting
absolutely
is
losing
tough.
it. So this is the first time that we've seen this site come out of Reject. So they are going to go, likewise with Damwon Kia, who lost their first 3 defenses, they're going to go for a full rotation through site, not playing the same site twice.
Now, apologies to my neighbors. I've opened my window. It's too dang hot.
Kendry was saying this. Sorry, I'm bringing it back to EUL. Kendry was saying that one of the reasons that he was looking really hot in his game against, they were playing against Heroic on EUL on Monday, was that he doesn't want to open his windows because of his neighbours. But so he was essentially playing inside of a greenhouse the other night.
Yeah, I've been casting inside of a greenhouse, and I know I have to be on camera again. So
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I get him open. It's fine.
Oh, open like Salty's head. Katsang. A very quick bit of aggression. I'm assuming he took that from the window and then dropped off. Not some insane 2-story impossible angle. No, he's taken that from the side of library. And now Damwon Kia putting the pressure here, making sure they're wasting no time getting into this. The approach. Katsang with the control of the Capitao is looking for some aggression. And talking of, here's 2 people back to back. Are they aware? Well, Yas is the one that's, I guess, hoping for that surprise play. Rin popped into box. Take goes for a bit of motion here behind the side. There is the Nook. Hi Nook, how you doing? Not very well, says Take. Gets the quick swing round, gets the take, looks for the pressure on box as it gets opened up. So instead pulls back. But Rin is actually the one who hopped out originally. And Take has decided to go for a different route.
Trying to go for kind of a direct poke to site. Obviously, Katsang's just gone in and been traded completely out there as the Nomad's trying to hold Tadaniki, up off above site in terms of library. DK, they're not wanting to take full map control here, rather just cheese themselves around, and it's really not worked in their favour. It is a 3v3, but Diffuser's lost in sight and Tadaniki has library. This engagement's massive. I don't think he knows about the Nomad, no. Nomad goes and retakes library, replaces the Nomad trap, and we're back on with the same attack.
Well, there's Candy, instantly finding some revenge here. And one of the things that we've seen on the previous attack rounds from Damwon Kia is that they've been able to sort of punish Reject without getting somebody caught out. And this time, sure, it's not intense one-for-one trades. The rotation, the bait of the play, the pull back up, Coated gets one, tries to snap to the other. Candy is now all that is left. The plant is going down once again. The pick back up. Boogeyman holds the pre-fire, and Damwon Kia find the end of that round. But I mean, up until they suddenly had 2 players working together, it was a lot of single 1v1 fights all around.
And that was simply the fastest, slowest direct push to site I've ever seen. It was so strange because there's people walking through site with a minute to go. But they're then, you know, in terms of the attackers, but then you've got like, basically the defenders could have retaken library, could have retaken the vertical. It was a 2v2. There's no way a plant should ever go off in a 2v2 in that particular bomb site, because if you think of in terms of the cover, the only cover that can come in is from the window of sight, can cover that close angle, can't cover stock, can't cover library. There was a Nomad trap protecting library, but that's all it was. I think Reject have misplayed that defense, I want to say, especially once they got that 3v2 advantage. DK have done wonders to find that round win there in that 2v2.
It sort of came down to this weird moment where it was the first time for my money that we'd seen 2 Damwon Kia players within about 5 feet of each other going for the same goal. Okay, you can look at how Yas was on the bottom of blue and how there was pressure that was coming up from underneath. But in that same sort of moment, you know, where was the connection to then get the refrag? Where was that connection to the trade? It just didn't come through.
Yeah, it was awkward, and it's not something that we're used to seeing out of DK, to be fair, is these kind of direct solo plays. Obviously, like you say, Yas is going up blue, says Rim was going in mud window, and then a couple of guys going inside, and there was a heavy reliance on the Nomad. I think normally on the balance of things, Reject probably win that defense as well. So Reject have probably got 4 or 5 rounds that they've lost to DK here, that they're thinking, on the balance of things, in a normal day, we win that. But I suppose that's the pressure that's created inside the server, that's created inside that cauldron, that sometimes it just doesn't happen for you for whatever reason. People get a little bit nervous and don't think the same way that they normally would. Now, obviously, we're going into another pause right now. So we're going to try and get that tech issue sorted out, get it going again, and we'll be back in game as soon as possible. But for Reject, once again, they're now on match point. Damwon Kia, they're on match point. 1 round away from more or less confirming themselves to going to the major. But also for Reject, they're facing match point. They're facing 6 rounds in a row. They really need to regroup their ideas and get going again and start winning these rounds.
I'm not sure when we'll be back in, hopefully soon, just to sort of bring a bit of an end to this. And I think, to be honest, the breaks in momentum, you know, okay, sure, technically we've seen 6 rounds in a row. All them 6 ducks lined up in a row, and they have all been on the side of Damwon Kia. The break in momentum, though, I don't think it's anything that ever really phases them. They're a team that, when they're in control or when they're having a good sort of moment in a fight, they seem to have an ability to keep that over pauses. It's an unfortunate aspect if you're up against them and you want to try and break the momentum, is sometimes they're a little bit unbreakable to that angle.
Yeah, and you can say, they got through that round after the tech pause that was in the previous round. They got through it, but it was somewhat sloppy as well. So it looks like we might start to be going very shortly. I would hope so, as the timer will look. No, maybe not. We've got obviously the clean feed. But yeah, I think it's difficult. It's really difficult from Reject now because you've gone through a full site rotation. And this is what DK did, to be fair, is that they lost their first 3 defensive rounds and then won their next 3 defensive rounds. You saw Window right at the end there hyping his team up. So if anyone's going to do it, it's going to be Window hyping his team up and do it again. They've got the Kapkan coming out, which I don't think inherently was really a bad decision. If you think about the last time this round played out, is that the Bandit trick went off with the Wanmai assisting, and then DK had to take a lot of risks with their droning and with walking themselves through particular areas of the map because they didn't have a lot of time to convert into another attack. DK successfully did that, but the Kapkan could have massive impact because not every doorway will be droned. You could see Salty kind of getting a little cheeky kill in the mid round if these doorways aren't particularly heavily droned.
Well, they're trying to play a bit of the bait there, and as you said, draw them in. Just smash it, makes things a bit awkward, makes them a little less obvious to check, and hope they can try and find the creep through. They have otherwise got themselves stacked up. The big change here is the Maverick man. He comes from far away. What can he play? The blowtorch.
The blowtorch, yeah. I was trying to think of what the actual words are, but then I can't remember that because I've not heard that in absolute years.
You put it up Pavilion time. The disc goes out. Woogieman is ready to rock and roll as soon as it comes through. They do also have the previous plan A as well, but sometimes it's good to just cut out the middleman and make things a little bit trickier for Tadeniki to try and do this. There it is, the spray and the play through. Katsang suffers quite big though through a bit of a spray, but it's Tadeniki that is the victim of that Maverick hole at the end of it. Window wants to try and lean his way back in. The drone gets pulled back. Rin's waiting for the watch on the run out. They really have stacked everything up here on this approach. That C4 doesn't catch anybody. And the bounce to the Thatcher means that they can stay safe as they go for this.
They're also going to use the range hard breach of Ace as well, not having to walk a Thermite up. However, the impact trick will come out. They've only got a crouch hole, a vault hole, sorry. And once again, this is going to be pretty awkward to play against unless lobby control's taken. So step 1, sure, got a kill. They've got the breach. That's step 1, that's done. They've committed 5 people and 90 seconds towards it. They've got a kill. However, for Reject, they can hold on to the top floor, and you can see there's 2 or 3 people up above site. There's no safe space to plant as Yas does find one of those kills on the top floor. That will be Salty that gets taken out.
I mean, that's another victim, another spray through, and I think that's the response from Damwon Kia. They knew where the bandit trick didn't work last time, and they knew how close it kind of got to. Here, Candy does get a trade out, but it's a long, slow crawl, and now it's one he barely makes. Take, they're going to stack up, get that drone, and pull themselves back in. The breach being open means things are very awkward, but with a minute to work with and 4 players, Damwon Kia truly have this game in their hands. They just need to try and find a way to convert it, with Take and Window having to do, in many people's books, a bit of the impossible. It's a long run back and forth up blue to play those sort of dangerous games, and as Coded goes for the swing round, potentially on the opposite side, it's actually the Yas. Yana is going to step in instead.
Yeah, just setting up for a plant here. You can see there's a lot of information being relied on for DK. They keep droning and droning and droning and droning, and it could be to their detriment, especially now Woogieman's been taken and Window can go and try and retake the top floor. That means Yas is going to have to commit his utility looking at the top floor, and this kill's absolutely vital. However, the rest of DK pushing through inside, they will go deep, they will get the plant down, and it's all going to be on Window in the 1v2 to clutch it out for his team.
Well, the pre-fire gives the idea of where he is, but now it's the post-plant 2 versus 1. Doesn't see the end of it, though. Damwon Kia, They're able to secure themselves the full 3 points. It was a strong start from Reject, and then a stronger reminder of, oh yeah, we're the top dogs of this league.
And I've got to say that is really, to be honest, it's really impressive stuff from me in terms of Damwon Kia, is that they were 3-0 down. They were down against a really dangerous team, a really momentum-driven team in Reject Gaming, and they were 3-0 down and facing, you know, they were not in the map at all at round 3. So to come back and get 7 rounds in a row, it shows the signs of a top team. It shows good resilience, it shows good discipline, it shows good trust in each other, and that was a really impressive 7 rounds in a row.
We'll go to a quick break before we're back with the desk and Milos to break it down.